Hey, Jen.
Hi, John.
Slow fading of us shooting the shit. Oh, we're
There
gonna
you
have to
go.
put an explicit language tag on this too.
Right, we'll just do a little warning.
Yeah.
Things can be said. It's not like
Yes.
when it's with a interview for Indie Author Magazine where I have to be like, please keep it PG-13.
Yes. Please keep it PG-13 because yeah. So we're back at the drawing board, building this creative life. How's your week been?
My week is going pretty well. My kids are in a rock band camp this week.
Yes.
So it's very exciting. My one son is going to be playing bongo drums on Shake It Off, I think. But
Nice.
he is he wants everything to be a surprise. So it's been over the course of the week. He's not great at keeping secrets. So at the beginning, it was like, we're doing 2 songs. I'm not going to tell you what they are, and I'm not going to tell you what instruments I'm playing. And then the
Okay.
next day, it was like, I really like the drums, and it's cool. And then yesterday, he was like, okay, so one of the songs is Shake It Off, but I'm not going to tell you which instrument I'm playing on that one. I'm playing 3 different instruments. I'm like, okay, cool. Um, yeah, so I'm not really sure. And then my other son is their first song is going to be We Will Rock You,
Oh, nice.
on which he is playing guitar, I think. I don't know. But he's doing recording arts in the afternoon instead of a second band. So my 7-year-old is doing a band in the morning and a band in the afternoon, and my 10-year-old is doing a band in the morning and recording arts with a bunch of teenagers in the afternoon. Um, so
That
that's
sounds
been
amazing.
a lot of craziness for them. And then my husband's birthday is on Saturday, so we've been sort of getting ready for that. I'm making a cake that looks like an X-wing. It's insane.
Oh, that makes me happy. Oh, that makes me happy. Is it going to be one of those 3D affairs where you
Oh
have
yeah,
to
it's
use
huge. I
pics?
went to the science museum. My 10-year-old and I go to the science museum once a week and
Yes.
do maker projects. And so I built a frame for this X-wing cake out of cardboard and aluminum foil and hot glue on Sunday, and then today I started measuring out what size of cake needs to fit on all the various pieces because it's got open wings.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, and so then I went and got some ice cream cones that I can use for the engines,
Right.
and some of those what are they called? Like pirouette. They're like a cookie, but it's like a straw shape.
Yes.
So those are going to be the little pew pews.
Oh.
Um, And yeah, so I have to do some baking this afternoon, but I went back and looked at the recipe and realized that I need 6 eggs, and every time I hear that, I it's the lady in the beginning of Beauty and the Beast. I need 6 eggs. I have to go to the store because I only have 4.
Oh, goodness. You saw
Right?
that, and I'm like, no, I get it, and I've done that so many times, and I've done that because all of a sudden you think, oh, I have a dozen in the refrigerator, and you realize, nah, what you need is 8 eggs and to make breakfast tomorrow. So,
Right. Yeah.
so oh, that sounds amazing. First of all, rock camp. We
Yeah.
were talking about how every time I think about that, I think about Jack Black and that movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, we do. It
So
makes it
we'll see.
really
They're
easy.
performing tomorrow, so
Oh, goodness. Oh, my week, um, my week was making candles and making decisions. That was what this week was. One of the big things that I'm doing is developing a grimoire. And we're
mhm.
talking about this because this podcast came from that. It's
Yes.
going up on the SRD. And so when I'm putting it in the kind of framework of that the recipe app that I have for the site is going to want.
Mm,
So I built a grimoire using this sketchbook, which is
nice.
what I use for all of my notes. But this is a watercolor paper
Okay.
sketchbook.
Hmm.
And when I tell you all the anxiety it gave me to start drawing in this sketchbook because this paper is so nice
It
and
feels
it's
really
cold.
good. Yeah. Watercolor paper, the texture is awesome.
It is. This is a heavier one, 140-pound, cold pressed, right? Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm putting just like ink and writing on it with ballpoint pen and with my fountain pens. And I felt some anxiety and I had to get over that
Mm-hmm.
because we have to get used to using nice things
Mm-hmm.
when we're doing things that are important to us.
Yes.
And that took me longer than I'm willing to admit that, oh, yes, it is okay to write on your nice things. Now, once I did that, I put together a set of candles that I do for my prayers. I call them invocation candles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about them earlier. They're 1 by 1 inch square votives that I sent, um, and that I pray over while I'm making them, and I add stones to them, all in a very short period of time. And then after that, I put it on my altar. Then I catalog them and put them away. Um, And the more with every candle, I learned more and more about myself and about my process and fighting imperfection, just the fighting the urge to beat myself up after
Mm-hmm.
I've made an error.
Yeah.
It is not about taking a hit, but it's recovering. So I'm learning to recover and see what the work tells me to go from there. For instance, with these candles, with the candles that's supposed to have been the money program for Monty Python, they were supposed to have one more notes here. They were supposed to have Amazonite, tiger's eye, cat's eye, lapis, and black salt, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to absorb negative energy, boost up your wisdom, truth, prosperity, boost your confidence, soothe your nervous system. Those are not the stones that are on this candle. The candle ended up having amethyst, garnet, lapis lazuli, and tiger's eye. Now, the lapis and the tiger's eye are the same. They're still boosting truth, boosting wisdom, because that is at the core of my moral values. But amethyst is a peace stone, it's wisdom, it's calming yourself down. And garnet is fire and passion, it's igniting spiritual energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to sit with that. And I prefer to sit with that than beat myself up for messing it up. And I sat with that instead of concentrating on my head spinning the way it was now that I have this box that I had set up for one thing. Turned out I made a mistake, and now I'm going to have to shift my perspective. It wasn't even like I needed to scratch stuff out and put new stuff in. I just had to add what was actually there and look those things up. But my mind was on such a steel reel that it
Mm-hmm.
had to be this that I literally had to stop. And that's why, and this is the point where I look at my relationship with Spirit and Source and be like, they know me so well. The original candle was based on Monty Python's Flying Circus. It was the first episode, first skit I'd ever seen was the Money Program. Eric Idle is talking about love like it's the 10 out of 10 shorty with the big booty. I'm like, he is just in love with money. And he's talking about these familiar terms, and then all of a sudden there's a keynote, and then all of a sudden he's singing, and then there's a chorus, and then the opening credits come, and it was absurd, it was crazy, and I fell in love, and I've been a fan since 18 years old. I'm 51 now. But remembering that the absurdity of it, the absurdity of Monty Python is that as long as it's in of service of the joke, right,
Mm-hmm.
then it's usable.
Yeah.
And this is in the service of building a creative life. It was in the service of me understanding the lessons to have a creative life. And it's getting over this perfectionism and knowing that I'm allowed to put sticky notes and tape and say, I'm sorry, I don't know why we're talking about a llama, right? Right. Or talk about the ferocious bunnies or what have you. So I made the changes. I looked over the stones and realized that this is the preparation for having money. So it's
Mm-hmm.
called fixing the broken money tree. Because I think we'll talk about this in later episodes about how financial security and being successful, at least in my definition, is just as much about reducing your expenses and spending reasonably and
Mm-hmm.
spending your money in the forward progress of this creative life, the forward progress of empathy and truth and kindness and anti-greed. And when you're spending your money like that, you'll find that you still are surrounded by a lot of shit, but it's all stuff that fortifies you and builds you up and encourages you, and through that does the same thing for those around you. So that was my big lesson this week. On the personal side, my big lesson on the professional side was torque. Torque. Torq. It is a vehicle game.
Okay.
It's, oh my God, it is just a wonderful um game for 2 to 4 players, I believe. It's a tabletop RPG, Rally Way tabletop RPG for 2 to 4 players, and you are a car in post-apocalyptia, and you are driving from one location to the other, and um on the road, there's a lot of dangers, and what you're trying to do is avoid them. It doesn't have guns because it isn't that kind of game. And Will Jobs and Good Luck Press aren't those kind of folks. We don't want a lot of crunchiness. What we're looking for is the story about Mad Max on the road, having to get
Mm-hmm.
away from stuff. And then once you get to the rest stop, how you develop that community.
Okay.
And I'm loving this game because we have in the Shaman States of America, my fiction universe, yes, there are monster hunters, but there's also various service industries around the hunting of monsters. And one of them is the pickup and the cleanup of the carcass of the monster they just hunted. If it's a specialized monster, if it's a monster that's really big or very heavy, you would call in Medusa's trucking company to come and get it. And from there, they'll take it off to a facility or a community that can use it. And also because we are talking about a shadow nation within a nation, we don't want a bunch of gunfights on the freeways.
Right.
We don't want a bunch of gunfights on the freeways. Something that you do see, especially in rural areas, are cops going after semis that are going weird or speeding or doing something reckless and dangerous. We do see low to medium speed chases. We don't see high speed chases nowadays. Um, but we do see those things going back and forth. And you live in Virginia, so you might be familiar with ghost trucks
Yes.
because they run them up and down the 95 corridor all the time. And so, because the Shaman States of America is existing in contemporary America and they do need to truck these things on trains or on semis, there's a lot of reasons folks will want to hijack those. And while there's some cooperation with the cops, sometimes there isn't cooperation with the cops. And they want to know what you're trucking because you're not quite a ghost truck. So I'm thinking that was plenty of conflict in order to make this a full-fledged game,
Mm-hmm.
which was great because we've been talking about Medusa's Trucking Company since 2019,
Oh wow.
and I couldn't come up with a story for it. I just like the idea of it. And I was frustrated because I was enamored with this idea and I couldn't make it fit. There was nothing that would fit it. And that's another thing where um perfectionism really is kind of I'm struggling with that because I'm not good with the pivot.
Yeah.
And when I realized that I am more of a game designer than an author,
Mm-hmm.
because I love the world building far, far, far more than I like writing the prose, and I had to
Mm-hmm.
accept that about myself, the easier the transition became. And then once I got over the, I guess, ego or pride of, no, I've got to make this all my own originally,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to reinvent the wheel instead of looking to see what ideas are out there. Can you
Mm-hmm.
steal like an artist, right? And when I took that point of view, the world of game design kind of opened to me because not only was I able to do that, but the game design part is, especially in the TTRPG space, the indie TTRPG space, it's the kind of community where they are so open to you doing that, as long as you're not being a dick about it,
Right.
as long as you're sharing and sharing alike. So when I saw Javier's game, it inspired me to do my Spoons for Stabby. That was the beginning of my career. And now with Torque, I was going to look for Will Jobs, the creator, his email, and they had already put a little blurb at the bottom. It's like, if you're looking for permission to use our game to make your game, consider it that, because we're a chop shop. We're a box of parts. Use
Mm.
it the way you want to, but let us know, right?
Oh, that's cool.
I know. And the that's how the tabletop RPG space is and has been, despite the way the Wizards of the Coast wants to play it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Despite the way they want to sit up there and legislate or steal into this hobby into oblivion. There are folks of us who, old and new, who want to share and share alike, because when building the universe, that's the fun in it, that's the joy in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Torque is the perfect fit. And so Kent Jennings, she's one of my co-authors. She wrote and of course, I am the Miranda Cosgrove. Curious
Mm-hmm.
Case Files of Miranda Cosgrove. Oh my God! Never mind, these are my books. She wrote that series, and so we're going to play Torque, and we're not going to play it for play testing just yet. We're going to play it for fun,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to stream it. And then as we go on, we're going to create the game. We're going to first we're going to skin it, and then we're going to homebrew some rules, and then we're going to change the setting, and it's going to
Mm-hmm.
become Medusa's Trucking Company. Shaman States
That's
of
right.
America presents Medusa's Trucking Company, and I am so excited um, because this is my second major game, and I'm going to be imperfect and flubbing up, and I'm getting used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like with podcasting with you, I'm going to be streaming with her, and it's it's new and exciting, and I am trying really hard to let go of perfection. Why is that hard, do you think?
It's so frustrating. Well, because you get into like you know how you want something to be, and you feel like you've put all this work and effort into making it the way that you want it to be, and then it never quite hits because reality is never going to match what's in your mind. Um, and I think even with building a game or with writing, part of the world building and part of the creation is that you're not doing it by yourself. You're doing it with your readers and with your players. They have to
Mhm.
add their own interpretations to it and their own um, views of it. So it's never going to be complete until it is shared with whoever it's meant for, right? Like um, when I was teaching, we were looking at a lot of how do you teach literary analysis to students, and the argument of like there isn't a correct analysis of this text. There's only your analysis of the text and whether you have been able to back it up with evidence that you've pulled out and things like that. And because I always had, the snarky smart students that would go and quote, I don't know,
Don't make the circuit.
there's an author that's like, I guess there's probably more than one authors that have come out and been like, I had no intentions. Everything's not meant to be a metaphor. Tell your teacher to leave you alone. Stuff like that.
That sounds like Bradbury.
There's a Mark Twain one too, that like, he's like, people have put over analysis into, whatever.
And Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah. Vonnegut. Yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah. And so I would always come back with the student about like, part of why we're analyzing our literature is for our own personal growth and our own understanding and our own what can you take away from it, and that and you're only going to take away whatever you put into it. So even if the author didn't specifically make this curtain blue because it means water or whatever, what if it does mean water? Like what if it does that lead you to a different interpretation of the text, and then does that bring you to a different meaning that you're taking away from it, and is it something that can help you grow as a person or help you on your own creative path or whatever? And so the text becomes something separate from the author, and it becomes something that is built in collaboration. So then what that means for me as an author, coming back to it, is that you have to kind of let go of trying to make it perfect, because the end result is not dependent on you as the author. The end result is dependent on this relationship that you have with the readers or with the players. And it's, you have to let it go because somebody else is going to add on to it anyway.
Right.
And for me, I've been working on editing my second book, and I just got my notes back from my editor, and this book is broadening the world. Like the first book was very much taking place in this very small town, and almost everything that happens is contained within this town. And then so in the second book, they've left the town and they're branching out and they're making the world bigger. And so my editor is asking these questions about, what are the rules of how I've introduced hunters into the world. And so it's like, how do the hunters know where the witches are? And I'm like, I don't know, they just do. Like, that's not appropriate. So then I'm going in and I was trying to make it be everything. It always ends up being like more and more complicated. And I'm like, well, what's the simplest? They're tracking energy. And so then I was like, well, I have to create some kind of tool that the hunters are using to track energy. And then I was Googling stuff as I was trying to come up with like, what is this new piece of tech that I'm going to create? And then I was like, it exists already. People track energy for their houses, and people track, and an EMF detector is a thing. And I'm like, so like, I don't need new technology. The hunters are using stuff that already exists. It's out there. It's just being used for something different than what necessarily it was intended. So like, so
the real reason they made that technology,
right? The real reason, it's actually supernatural and behave. So like, I let go of like, it doesn't have to be my thing. It can be something that's real that already is there, and then I just twist the meaning of it for mine. And then I'll go through, and she'll say things about something it seems inconsistent that this character did this because she said something else earlier, and instead of trying to justify why I had it the way that I had it, I just delete the line. I'm like, because in my head I'm like, no, she says that because there's a whole reason and you're just not getting it, and I don't know why you as the reader, as the editor, aren't getting like what I meant, that it totally makes sense though why this character would do this. And then I have to stop and be like, no, she's the reader, she's not wrong. Like if she doesn't get it, then I've done something incorrectly as an author. And so then I either go in and I change it and I write something else, or I just, most of the time it's just like, you know what, if I just take that line out, it makes more sense anyway. So I was unnecessarily complicating things. The big one today was my timeline at the beginning of the chapter. It's she goes out and it's nighttime, and it's it's dark already and it's getting closer. She's past her curfew and she's going to get in trouble for being up late. And then by the end of the scene, she's walking on a different street and the sun is coming through these trees. And the editor is like, the sun? Really? It's like 11 o'clock at night. And I was like, oh yeah. So I'm like, the trees are still there, but the sun is not there. The trees are casting shadows, and the whole point of the description of the sun being broken up by the trees was that the trees were blocking the hunters were chasing this witch, and
Right.
they couldn't see her because of the trees. And I'm like, the sun wasn't the point anyway. So like the point was that the trees were in the way. So let's just cut out the stuff that doesn't make sense
Right.
and focus on the thing that does make sense and just let it go. Like this, I had this whole like descriptive paragraph about what it looked like, that the light was coming through the trees and it was dappling and all this whatever. I'm like, it's a beautiful descriptive thing that makes no sense because it's dark outside. It's nighttime. so I just cut that whole description of the sun and the light and the whatever, and it was just like, yeah, no, he can't see her because the tree's in the way.
Right. Right. I mean, you can use that for something else, but no, the
Right.
tree's in the
Yeah.
way.
The tree's in the way. That's the point, was the trees are in the way.
Yes.
So we don't need this other stuff.
Right, but on the other hand, don't let go of that stuff too, because part of
Yeah.
that, you really like that. I could tell you really like that description.
Well, the prose was pretty. It was pretty prose, but it was unnecessary prose. So I do have a like a cutscenes folder where I'm just like, if it's something that I really liked, then I'm like, we'll take this and we'll stick it somewhere else and we'll find it later. Like there's a whole chapter in this book about the main character is a college student and she works in the college theater, and part of developing her as a character when I was writing the first book was I wanted an understanding of who she was as a person before you knew that she was a witch.
Hmm.
And so she had this sort of creative life and she was working backstage in a theater and she's building the sets and all of this stuff, and she has friends who are not witches who don't know that she's a witch.
Hmm.
And ultimately, while I was writing the first book, it became clear that this whole like her college life and whatever isn't the importance to this book. This book is about when she goes home over spring break and what happens when she's at home. So I
Right.
had to cut all of the chapters of her being at college, even though my critique partners liked them, and one of my critique partner in particular has a college theater background, and she was like, this is so great, I love this, and I never get to see this, and nobody ever writes about this stuff, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, and I can't use it for this book anymore because it makes it like it's too many characters and it's a lot going on and it's too many locations. And so I just put them aside.
Hmm.
And now in book two takes place at the college, so it makes sense for all of that to come. So I brought the whole chapter back and then, revised because it's in a different part of the timeline now, so I had to change certain things about it, but like most of what happens in that, it's the same as it was one of the early chapters
Yeah.
that I wrote.
Those things quickly become short stories to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. I was
I
thinking
do
about
have a few that I'm like, that's going to be like a bonus chapter for followers or something because it doesn't fit in the book and it didn't fit in the last book. And I'm like, I don't want to let it go, but like it doesn't fit and I don't know where it's ever going to fit. So like, I'm just going to send it to my newsletter people and be
Right.
like, here's something fun that I wrote that made no sense.
Right. I'm just gonna make it its own thing so it can exist for the sake of existing.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I don't know. It's kind of weird when I think about this because I've done that many times before. Had these scenes that I absolutely love that just don't have a place. Um, Also, there's a lot of things I cut because, and I'm trying to struggle. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to struggle. I'm struggling. I'm struggling with. Let me see if I can pinpoint it. At the beginning of my career, I had this image in my mind about how I would be writing these books and what kind of validation it would give me by writing
Mm-hmm.
these stories in this way. Right?
Yeah.
I thought that once I was able to publish this story in the way I see it in my mind, that it would fill a hole.
Hmm.
If I'm frank, it would fill a hole. It would make me feel better about wanting to have a creative life because it was something that it was frowned upon in my life. I was raised in a fundamentalist cult. I was raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And the thing about the day-to-day life of the JW is that you are taught to smother your dreams
Hmm.
and your passions and rechannel them only to the service of this religion. So if you're not talking to people, if you're not talking to other people like you about the religion, if you're not studying, if you're not doing everything that kind of points you back to the religion, it was it was frowned upon. It was something that you shouldn't do. And it took me leaving and then decompressing from and debriefing and deprogramming from all of that. But I really had to question whether or not is this really going to make me happy? Is it writing it? If it doesn't, if it turns out that your ideas don't show up on your paper the way you saw them in your head, is that going to kill you? Is that going to be a deal breaker?
Hmm.
When you write the book and the people who think that are going to absolutely love it and get it and they don't,
Hmm.
or they have a different experience or see things a different way, is that going to kill you? Is that going to hurt you? Is that going to keep you from doing this? If your mom or your dad or your auntie talks about when you're going to get a real job or your
Hmm.
little stuff, is that going to end you? Who are you trying to Are you trying to validate yourself? Or are you trying to validate others and get them to see you and get them to see that, oh yeah, this is real and this is a real job and everything?
Hmm.
Are you trying to do that? And if you never get that, are you still going to do this?
Hmm.
Right? And I think that's where a lot of my perfectionism comes because after not having not being allowed to have a passion and then wanting to do it all and then realize in my 40s and now in my early 50s that I have to learn what it is and learn how to do it and
Hmm.
learn how to regulate my feelings and emotions around failure to do it
Hmm.
the way I want to and getting used to the fact that you don't have to be perfect. This doesn't have to be clean, right?
Hmm.
It has to be fun. It has to produce no victims, right? And then that's not to say that people's feelings aren't going to be hurt. It doesn't mean that people aren't going to come after you. But also, victims don't swing first, you see? And getting past all of that, I think maybe the biggest lesson that I've learned in building this life was, and getting over perfection, is understanding that I'm doing this because it's fun for me.
Hmm.
And I'm writing short stories. It doesn't matter to me that the trend is a 5 book series or a continuing series or all that. It did at the beginning because I wanted to succeed, because I wanted to show people that I could do this,
Hmm.
right? And once I ran myself into the ground trying to do that, step back and just ask myself, what do I want to do? I want to write short stories. Number one, I do not want to write a full length novel again. If a full length novel comes out of Shaman States of America, that's because somebody else novelized it. I don't want to do that. I don't want to make games, right? And it sounds insane to me. And at the same time, it's the kind of insanity that I live for. I'm like, I don't know if you thought I was crazy when I was like, hey, you want to do a podcast?
I was really excited because I mean, well, one of the things is the cards keep telling me that I need to be saying yes to things and stop saying no to things, and I hadn't realized that I was saying no to things until like you said that, and my first reaction was like, "That sounds terrifying. Let's not do that." And then I was like, "Nope, nope, nope,
Yeah.
nope.
No.
We're saying yes. We're
We're
saying yes
saying
to
yes.
things. We're doing things. This is one of those things.
Right.
We're gonna do the things that scare us." Um, well, um, and it's so interesting to me to hear your story because I feel like I my background is completely the opposite, but I ended up in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
Like I grew up with fairly liberal parents, upper middle class,
Mm-hmm.
um, independent slash democratic kind of whatever values. And my dad was always you can be anything you want to be. You can do anything you want to do. Like even to the point of like when we were trying to figure out where I was going to go to college, um, I sort of knew that the college that I wanted to go to was outside of our financial situation. And my dad made just enough money that I wasn't going to get any financial aid, but not enough money to pay for college. Um, so pretty I was a good student and I was a teacher's pet all the way, and so like I applied to 4 schools, I got into all of them, but my dad was like, whichever one you really want to go to, we'll make it happen, and we can do whatever, we'll do it together, what you want is important and whatever. And but it got to a point where like they were talking about he's going to take a second job, and I was like, I can't make my parents do that so that I can go to this school when there are other schools that are just as good, that like the state schools in Virginia are high quality.
They are really nice.
Oh, right. So I went to a very good school that lots of people dream about going to. Um, and then I was like, I don't know what to do here. And my dad was like, well, just take the classes that are interesting to you. Take whatever classes spark your passion and make you excited, and then we'll figure out what you're going to do based on that. Like, because I never had an answer for like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, I don't know, I like being a student, it's fun. And I can't be a student forever because it doesn't pay the bills. And
See, yes, you can. And here's the thing: I am literally that. I am
right,
forever a student, and I
right.
am determined to get paid to do that. I am.
I mean, that's
It's,
kind of what I'm learning now. That's kind of where I am at this point. Was like, my dad was just like, you can be whatever you want, but that amount of freedom and that amount of support kind of led me to freezing, because I was never, if
yeah,
I'm going to
yeah,
have all of this privilege,
uh-huh.
right, and I have all of this support, and you can do whatever you want, then whatever I want has to be worthy of that. I have to pick something. I have to have a
Mm-hmm.
passion that is worthy of all of the support and all of the privilege and all of the luck and that I have received, right? I'm being given everything I could possibly need or want. I
Right.
need to put it in a direction that is useful and important, and that other people will respect, and not say that I wasted all of the stuff that I had.
And
Because,
there goes the
right?
fallacy right there. There
Right?
goes the fallacy because
Yeah.
having now my privilege and my power and my luck comes from a different place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have worked on it. I have built a community around me and I've built a life around me where I could do
Mm-hmm.
that. But the point, and I think we both missed it in very different ways, is that the fun and that the looking around and
Mm-hmm.
that the ceaseless curiosity and that thirst, all of that is worthy of it. All of
Mm-hmm.
that is worthy of your time and attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep on telling folks that I make when you see me in real life, I am not dressed to the nines or designer clothing or anything like that. Even when I made a large amount of money, I've never been that girl, right? And I would always get the comment from women with the nose in the ears, like, well, if I had this, I would look like this. And I explained to them, having the privilege and the money and the power to do all of this means I get to show up exactly the way I want to.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to go to church with no shoes on, then I will do that. Because by your measure, my tithes are enough to make demands. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to demand of myself not to wear shoes, and I'm going to demand you to be quiet about it. And that's what I'm having a time embracing
Yeah.
is that because we have the opportunity to fill this space, but the shit we just like, because
Mm-hmm.
we like it,
Yeah. Because
should
I
be
like it
taken
has to be
vividly.
enough of a reason, right? I'm doing
Right,
it because I want to is enough of a reason.
right. And the things that should stop us isn't, oh my God, they did all this, I should make it. It's like, am I hurting people? Am I
Mm-hmm.
scamming people? Am I sitting up there dogging people so I can feel better about myself? Can I, do I have enough space in my heart and in my life so when people who come up with me do better with me that I cheer them on still,
Mm-hmm.
right? Can you do that? I think that should be the more important part of this. That should be, if you're going to sit there and be reticent about anything, be reticent against being a dick.
Right. Exactly.
I'm like, I'm watching on TikTok and there's a drama now because some girl mad because somebody else got a deal that is about as good or better than theirs. Can you shut up and enjoy your deal?
Right? I keep seeing things. You gotta. People are like, "Oh, you have to remember that it's not a competition between. It's you against yourself. It's not you against everybody else." Like, um, or one of the it was on Threads. Somebody had been like they were talking about why does it was a stupid political thing, but it was like why is it that you know a drug addict gets um whatever the meds are for some ridiculously small amount of money, but insulin costs crazy large amounts of money. And then the person had crossed out the why does part and just as why is my insulin cost so much? That's the part is your problem. What they're doing, what their issue is, what they're getting has nothing to do with you. Like
Absolutely.
why is
Why is
your
Nicam?
yes.
Why can you get Nicam for 13 cents? They can get it free, and they tell the ambulance people to have them on you in case somebody's overdosing. So a child of God doesn't die. That's
Right?
why.
Right.
That's why.
Right.
That's why they have that there. Why is your insulin cost $1,300 a shot? Because people are greedy.
Right. That is a separate problem from
Right?
those people getting what they need isn't the thing that's preventing you from getting what you need.
Right. And if you want to bring some people in there who are causing the trouble, why not ask why your congressman got paid to sit there, has been paid for 30 years to get away from a one payment system? Say what you want about Richard Nixon. He was a full on crook, but he would have given us our one payment system. He was a Republican. He was a Republican.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, talk to. There is a prevalent problem of complaining downward
Mm-hmm.
because you can look down on somebody and feel better about yourself when you should be looking upward and looking to
Mm-hmm.
your authorities and to your leaders. And why aren't you doing this? For a country based on being so independent, we really put a lot of faith and our belief, and we hook our identities to people telling us what to do.
Mm-hmm.
like, and feeling that we have to, if I sit up there and do everything they want to do, they'll involve me in this and they'll give me power. No,
No.
you have to do it yourself. You have to figure it out yourself. And what you will find once you start doing it, as I have found, and I'm quite sure you have found, is that when you start doing things because they're fun, because they're good, because they bring out a truth in you, and you do it, aim to do it no victims, but as hard, as far, and as fast as you can, what happens that the people who are the folks who are vibing with you vibe with you. They show up.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why you have to say yes. So the people will show up and help you. And mm, it just gets me that it isn't a competition with anyone other than your brain, the
Mm-hmm.
lies you've been told in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. This got deep. I thought this was supposed to be fun. We got deep thoughts. Deep thoughts. All right, so we're rolling up on about 10 minutes till. So, what are we doing practically in the next week? Okay, first of all, what are we doing next week? What are our goals for next week?
uh, Solid question.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna look up the recording from last time and add it to the recording from Zoom, and then I'm gonna put this one attached to it. I'm gonna see what I can do about making an episode of those three videos together. I think I'm gonna work on some editing
Mhm.
for that and see if I can find a flow. We've got a through line in here.
Okay. I'm hoping that you'll give me the episode from last week,
Mm-hmm.
and I will upload that to the site, and then I'll start working on those. And now that you really like what I was doing with the logo, I'll put some more work into that,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll start putting that together because I wanted to have our graphics done this week and totally went into paralysis. But so upload episode 0, and then we're going to work on the graphics. And that is what I want to working on the graphics and having them up is what I want to present when we record next week.
Okay.
But and I'm hoping you will have an episode for me to upload
Yes,
so we
I
could
will
test that.
do. Yes. When do you want that to be the first episode to be done? The
Sorry?
zero episode. When do you want it? Because I'm looking at the calendar. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do things.
Okay, then why don't we have it for I was going to say Saturday, but you're going to want to be with your family on Saturday.
Yeah,
How
so
about
this is
Friday? Or no, 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 no. How about Tuesday?
Tuesday. Tuesday works. Yeah, I can get that to you Tuesday.
Okay. Tuesdays, it feels like a
I'm
really
putting that on
good
my calendar. Ah, shoot, I hit the wrong button. Okay.
because once again, the creative life works around your life, and I want you to spend the time with the hubby and the kiddos, and find a place that has kind of like low stress time to do this.
Yeah, that should work because tomorrow the kids are performing their rock band. Saturday is the husband's birthday. Sunday is Father's Day, so we're gonna
Yeah.
be
Oh
doing.
yeah. You
But
got a
yeah,
full weekend.
I got a
Yeah.
full weekend, but I could do it Monday and Tuesday and have it done by Tuesday
Oh,
afternoon.
when how old is your husband gonna be?
49.
Oh wow. He's getting right into there. Tell him do not fear the reaper. Do not fear 50. It is nice here, buddy. Let me tell you that truth. I really do like it here. And another thing I want to talk about next week and I want to be held accountable for is the websites.
Okay.
This is going under essentially CK,
Okay.
and the torque stuff is going under caramelsugarevil. And I want to talk about a little bit about the branding and where I'm placing everything and why. And I want to
Okay.
talk about our episode 0 of the Torque game as well. I want to
Okay.
share that. So, what do you want to be? What do you want? That's CK. What does Jim want to be doing?
Okay, you're working on graphics in the site. I'm gonna edit this podcast,
Hmm.
and write some show notes. And that might be all I can do this week because I also need to edit the book.
Right. Oh, edit your book, because that's part of it too.
So yeah,
You would edit your book.
yeah. So I'm trying to do 5 chapters a day,
Hmm.
because I want to get it to my betas by the 24th.
Hmm.
Um, so I went in and set up beta reading with Story Origin, and I
Nice.
want to see how their system works because I
Hmm.
haven't ever done that before. Previously, I've done beta read for the first book. I did beta readers, just shared them Google Docs.
Right.
Um, but Story Origin has a pretty cool setup,
It really does.
and you can track like what chapter people are on, and you can put questions at the end of each chapters, and they can still write. Um, inline text and stuff. So I'm going to see how that goes. But that means I have to have something for them. And I told them they could have it on the 24th, so it's got to be done by then.
Right. Right. No, I get that. And Evan did an amazing job on this. This is
Yeah.
one of those things that I remember when he started years and years ago. And from that point to where I did the write up on it for Indie Author Magazine was like exponentially mind blowing. And I've just been peeking in now, and it's just, oh, so nice. So
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
sure we're
I
going to
feel
have
like
that.
I keep getting emails where they've added something new, and it's really cool.
It really, really is.
And yeah.
All right, then. So you're going to do the episode 0, edit your book, and learn a little bit more about story origin.
Yeah.
Okay. Because remember, all of this is the creative life, not just the podcast. The podcast is where we talk about what
Right,
all the
right.
other stuff we're
That is
doing.
true.
It's a reason to talk about everything.
Yeah, so I'm doing that. That's my main thing is editing the thing right now. I have entirely too many things set up because I also tried to start a Ream account at the same. Why do I have so many windows? Okay. Yeah, so I'm trying to make sure that I'm providing stuff for my Ream followers,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm also providing stuff for my newsletter, and then I also started this new TikTok. So I think this week and next week I'm trying to streamline reusing the content because they are different audiences. Like the people that follow me on Ream are not the same people that follow me on TikTok. So
Right.
I'm trying to figure out how I can like make sure that everybody is getting stuff, but it's all sort of like different versions of the same content.
Oh, we should make that an episode. We should make that the next episode
Okay.
about content creation.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
let's
I'm
write
trying
that
to
down.
remind myself that like I started this because I wanted to be an author, not because I wanted to be a content creator.
Right.
Like the content creation needs to not take over the author stuff.
I get that. And once again, I'm opposite. Now that I've decided I don't want to be an author as much as a content creator, it is all about the content creation, and I'm still stuck. So we just gonna be stuck together, going in our opposite directions. Building creative life, I always think about going back to the drawing board, being at the drawing board, us
Mm-hmm.
coming to the drawing board, and now
Mm-hmm.
that we have plans, let's go and build stuff.
Yeah, you go back and do it. Yeah.
Yeah, go back and do it. So we're gonna see how this works. And if it doesn't, we'll write it in the incident report. All right.
There you go.
All right. Bye.